Welcome everybody to the middle school and high school debate coaches meeting. My name is Charlotte Hudspeth and I'm the Executive Director of Extracurricular and Extended Learning Opportunities. We're going to go quickly over what the format is today. There'll be a short PowerPoint presentation that will cover all the district related information, and then Derek Lyles from Dallas Urban Debate Alliance will talk more about the debate program. And then at the end, you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions, and we'll provide you some answers there. If at some point during this, though, that you've really got a question that is relevant to what I'm talking about at that time, you can do the icon at the bottom and raise your hand, and I'm sure Leonidas or someone will interrupt and say, no, wait, somebody has a really good question right now that needs to be answered right at this moment. Otherwise, we'll save those for the end. I want to start with really talking about what the Student Activities Department does to support campuses. Those of you that have not worked with us in the past, I want you to know that we try to provide everything that you need to be successful as a coach, whether that's study materials or fees for registration or meals at competitions, transportation when we're traveling again, training for you guys, and also stipends. And if you advance, we try to handle all of those travel logistics so that you don't have to worry about that. So as you know, we have middle school and high school debate. We also have elementary debate. This will be our third year having fifth graders. So hopefully those of you at the middle school are experiencing some of having some kids that are familiar with debate that participated at the elementary level. We've tried to really add elementary programs to build on middle school and middle school to build on high school. And we've done that for many years now. So I'm hoping that you're starting to see some of the benefits of having some vertical alignment in our activities. Last year we added esports, and that was a huge undertaking. We're continuing with that this year and expanding on that. And then at the high school level, well, we also added middle school cheer this year, which is really exciting. And then at the high school level, we added Social Impact Challenge, which is the district's version of the Aspen Challenge. And we added Link Crew, which is a freshman transition program that will be taking place at 11 high schools. And we're hoping next year that that will be at all of our high schools, really trying to keep track of freshmen and provide some mentors and create some leadership opportunities for juniors and senior students at each campus. I think this is a good time to stop and introduce you to the best team that makes all of these activities happen for everyone. Leonidas Patterson is your contact person for all things debate. He is also responsible for secondary UIL, academic decathlon, academic pentathlon, social impact challenge, and Link Crew. Also is Christina Martinez is responsible for middle school and high school cheer, yearbook, newspaper, social media training, and help with the activity site. Angie Nuno is responsible for esports and chess. Noelle Spear is responsible for elementary UIL, Lone Star Challenge, Destination Imagination, the activities site, and TMSCA. Erica Guzman is responsible for transportation, supplemental pay, and budget. And Vicki Beeman is our office manager. You know, we really have a great opportunity year after year to just really see what an impact involvement in student activities can have, not only on students, but on coaches as well. So thank you so much for agreeing to coach debate this year. We know this is a year like none other, and the first semester will be virtual. Hopefully in the spring, we'll be back to face-to-face, but if not, we really, really appreciate you taking this on in addition to all the other things that you're trying to balance, especially this year. But now more than ever, kids need to be connected. They need to have that relationship with their coach and with their team, and they can't do it without you. So we really appreciate you taking this on. These are some of the activities. We still have the goal, a personal goal and a district goal unofficially, to have every student involved in at least one extracurricular or co-curricular activity each year. while it is not one of the goals per se, it is a priority. It is part of the local accountability system rating. And so any time you can get more kids involved, please help your campus in doing so. Okay, so student expectations at debate. Really, it's going to be a little bit different in that it'll pretty much be the same as what you're doing with your classes now that are virtual. The student code of conduct and all of those things still apply. So, you know, acceptable behavior, proper attire, being respectful to others, all of that still stands. Coach expectations with judging. Your feedback is so important. And I know we've all been at the debates when it's time to look for judges and everybody starts, you know, putting their head down and looking around and they got to go to the restroom and all, but we cannot do these debates without having some quality judges. And the more that you can help with that, the better off it is for the kids and the program. So all of you should have received an email saying your principal has designated you in Oracle to serve as a coach. If you have not gotten that email, please check with your principal and find out if you've been designated. Oftentimes, you have not signed your coach agreement or your principal hasn't designated you. And when it comes time for payment for the supplemental pay, it's difficult to find, you know, hurry up. It goes through many layers of approvals. So it will really speed up the process if you're already in there. Once you sign it and you're in, you're good for the year. This year, you can see on the coach agreement that you are paid again for tournaments worked, and the number of students 3 to 6 is $300. For assistant coach, it's $200. So all of that information is there. If you have any questions about that, we'll cover it at the end. The field trip request process has changed a little bit. Now, this is different in that we're not traveling. First semester, no transportation will be provided because everything will be virtual, but you go to a different site and you select request new trip. And Erica is still our contact for that. So if you have any questions on that, call Erica. And then again, this is Leonidas's direct contact information. It's best to reach him by cell phone. But really, if you can't reach him, any of us are here to help you in any way that we can. So you can call our main number, which I don't think I put it on there, but it's 972-749-5700. Any of us can help you with your questions. Okay, so we've got some really exciting stuff this year with Dallas Urban Debate Alliance. And I'm going to turn it over to Derek to let him share all the information that's related to the debate program. Derek?
All right. Thank you so much, Charla. Give me just one moment to share my screen. All right. Does that look good, Charla and Leo?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Well, before I get going, I just want to echo Charla's sentiment. I mean, this is obviously, you know better than any of us that this is a very difficult year on the teaching end. And so I just want to reiterate our appreciation for your interest, first off, in just continuing to be engaged in our programs and involved and taking the time tonight even to hear about some of what we've lined up. And I just want to say thank you again. We have some new things that we're excited to offer you that hopefully will make your lives easier as you navigate this. And I just want to say that at Dallas Urban Debate, we know there is a lot of room to continue improving to help you all as you coach. And so please, anytime, if you have any questions or ideas about what we can do to improve your experience, just reach out. But otherwise, I'll get down to brass tacks. And just to repeat, if you have any questions throughout this process, there's a Q&A box at the bottom. And if you type a question in, Leo will flag me down to make sure that I answer your questions at an appropriate time. So I really want to talk about 5 big things today. The first is just the nature of our relationship with Dallas ISD, what guides our work and some of the initiatives that we're taking on. I want to talk about the new resources that we're offering, thanks to the extended spring and summer period that we had to really redesign things. I'm going to talk about the new structure of our competition calendar, as well as a small preview of what online debate will shape up as. And then to talk about our data collection, which is something that we're trying to bring back this year, and then to provide our contact information. So for those of you who are new, and I suppose those of you who've been around, you're pretty familiar with this, but we are a nonprofit private organization that works with Dallas ISD. We've been very lucky to enjoy the support of student activities as we work to build debate teams in Dallas ISD schools. The point of the partnership is primarily to expand student academic success in the district. And there's 3 focal points of that for us. There's critical thinking, public speaking, and research skills. And those are all things that debate is well positioned to improve. The next 2 goals are really just to make debate teams exist and then to improve the success of Dallas ISD debate teams, especially at events such as the University Interscholastic League state tournament. Towards that end, we have been working on a few major projects. One of them is to improve and provide more support materials to you as coaches. And we'll continue this year, as we always have, to host free trainings and free tournaments for any DISD campus that's participating in our program, thanks to the support of student activities. So the most important thing I want to talk about on this call are the new resources that we're offering. There's 4 big resources that will be available on our website in the next day or 2 once we finish updating it. But the student workbook, the coach activity manual, the core files, and then the coach guide and coach rulebook are the other ones. But the most exciting one, I think, is the student workbook. Our big goal here, based on coach feedback, was to find a way that students who are motivated, who wanted to learn more about debate, could guide themselves to better participate. And a lot of that comes from, a sort of fundamental recognition that a lot of coaches don't have a really deep experience in debate. And so our goal was to create a resource that would allow students to, with coach guidance, open up and be able to break debate down into its component parts to learn the fundamental skills, the content of the core files, and how to effectively engage each other in debate rounds. So this is just one example of a single page in the workbook, but it's something that can definitely be used if you have a debate class. It would be excellent in there, but it's also something that can be used as a supplement to your after-school meetings, since obviously after-school meetings are going to be difficult to manage as you traditionally would have. So it's a self-guided tool. It's an introduction for students to guide themselves into debate, and there's a total of 7 units overall that cover everything from basic persuasion techniques to the affirmative core files, negative core files, and then specific advanced arguments that are contained in the files. So we're really excited about this one. The graphic design on it is wrapping up and it'll be posted pretty soon. Leo can speak maybe a little more specifically to that in a minute. The next resource that we have is the Coach Activity Pack. And this one came in a similar vein from a realization that, a lot of our coaches don't have an intimate experience with debate. And so we wanted to standardize the instruction that students were getting. And so obviously, if you're an experienced debate coach, you don't have to follow this to a T. You're able to adapt it, or you can even go your own direction with it. But this is meant to make sure that every student has access to the exact same debate experience, even if their coach is not an expert. We designed this to be, or assuming that your team would be having 1 meeting a week, that meeting would be online, and that meeting would be about 45 minutes long. This is the sort of typical structure. This is an example of one of the activities. We break up the major topics, any resources that you'll need for that particular day that your students will need to bring to the online meeting. And for pretty much every activity, we did our best to link a YouTube video that successfully explains the concept. So we picked through a lot of videos produced by outside debate advocacy organizations to try and kind of skim through the chef, if you will, to make sure that you get the best introduction. And then there's discussion questions and extension activities for each of those. One important thing to note with the activity pack is that it aligns with the pacing of the student workbook. So this is really, not to use education buzzwords that your principals are telling you too much, but this is aligned and it's really sequenced out in a way that ensures that your students will be learning what they need to throughout different points of the year. And that way they're all ready and prepared at each event, whether it's a workshop or a tournament. It addresses the same content as the student workbook, and there's a few unique things to it. Based on the tournament calendar, we've built in days where students will be preparing for tournaments, where they'll be debriefing from tournaments, and then understanding, of course, that coaches, sometimes you have a day where you're not ready to really sit and properly teach a debate lesson. We've added some days or some flexible activities at the end where there are some debate games, there's some exercises to get students speaking. Our goal is to offer you flexibility. This is a framework, but it can be adjusted to your heart's content. The next thing is are the core files. And if you've been coaching, these are perhaps painfully familiar to you. And there's been pretty much an ongoing process to refine these. And there's really no end to that process. But based on what we heard, and we heard several things about them, and we heard that there was a tendency that students would see them and that it would be either intimidating or overwhelming to review all of the material. And something else that we noticed and heard from you all is the students sort of treated the core files like a debate script. It was something that, they'd open to page 1, read page 1 through 10 in the first speech, and then in the next speech, they'd read page 11 through 16, and so on and so forth. And so we've done a couple things to try to fix that. The first step was really just to provide the student workbook and the coach activity guide to make sure that you are helping the students break into the core files the correct way. And that way, that'll fix a lot of the problem just with a successful and thoughtful introduction to the files. We're also abbreviating them slightly. Yes?
Hey, there's a lot of questions about the workbook.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be available online, hopefully by Monday, and soon after hard copy. So we're working on getting it published and printed and edited and all those good things. So it's coming your way soon.
Were there other particular questions? I can't see them while I'm sharing my screen.
And all the presentations will be also sent to you. The PowerPoint presentation will be sent to all of the coaches online today, and the ones that are not.
Cool. Thank you, Leo. So the core files, we're going to abbreviate them a little bit. I mean, where the novice files used to be around 40 to 50 pages, they'll be a little shorter, probably closer to around 30, 35 pages. Just a small reduction in size to make them more manageable. We're increasing the front matter, the resources that go in front of the core files. So there will be an expanded summary for the files that gives a much better introduction to the concepts in them with some pull-out quotes from the evidence. Also a glossary or key terms. One of the most important steps that we've taken is, and it's something that we're going to try and we'll see how it goes, but we're pretty certain this is going to make a good difference, is that in evidence or in these core files, there's always a header that says what the evidence is used for. So if you look at the example on the right, minorities most impacted by death penalty. But traditionally we have about a 2-sentence summary of that piece of evidence that typically, based on your feedback, students would just read that and never actually really read what the evidence was about. So we've taken the step of removing these taglines, and that's going to make some work, obviously, for your students, but with the student workbook, this is a skill that is addressed in the workbook itself. The point is that students will have to actually look at this evidence, process it, and think about how they would use it in a debate round. Students will also be building their own constructive speeches. We are not giving you a pre-scripted 1AC anymore. The idea is that, students, it's time for them to really create their own arguments. We're not going to script their speeches for them anymore. And that's a really big step and something that we're very excited about. Any questions about the core files before I move on? Nope. All right. A few more comments about the core files, just some background for you and about this year's topic as well. So this year's topic, which was voted on last spring in February, is whether or not we should reform our criminal justice system. And this was something that really couldn't have come at a better time. Thank you, Adrian, for the comment. So this is a fantastic topic, obviously. It's a very controversial one. It's a very contemporary one. And so we've tried to find a way to ride the line to give students relevant arguments, but also not making it too politically overwhelming for them. So the fall core files will be about abolishing the death penalty, whether or not we should do that. The spring core files may be a little more heated of a topic, whether or not we should demilitarize the police or prevent the police from using military surplus items like armored personnel carriers, machine guns, that sort of thing. So those are going to be the focal points of our core files. For new coaches, and I guess for old coaches, just to reiterate this rule, we are going to continue to not allow outside research at DUTA events. We want students using these files because the whole point this year is and we're trying to get DUTA to a baseline. We want everyone to be in a similar position so we can start to treat it like a foundation to build more and more advanced debate knowledge moving forward. So we're limiting it to the core files. There's 2 exceptions to that. And that is if a student is in the varsity division, it is fully open. They can produce any argument they want to. That's up to them, and that's between you and your students. The other exception, and this is something we've done in the past, but I just want to be more clear about it, is that our city championship tournaments, which are in the spring, we have one for high school and one for middle school. Students are allowed to update their core files. So they can do their own research, but it has to be relevant to the core file content. So they can do their own research on death penalty or demilitarizing the police. And just to reiterate as well, hard copies of these core files will be made available to you. We'll be sending out an order request later. So Chris Wright asks, what does or not qualify as outside research? Does it exclude paraphrasing what they've learned from the files? Okay, so outside research would mean referencing directly, say like a piece of evidence from a book or from a newspaper article. The idea is if you were referencing something as fact and saying that this person says it's true, like the New York Times says this is true, here's New York Times evidence, then that would not be allowed if it's not from the core files. If a student said, we know that Trump is trying to nominate a Supreme Court justice, it's common knowledge, that's acceptable. If a student says, in reading the files, I've come to an understanding that the death penalty commonly targets minorities, that kind of summary would be acceptable. But the difference there is that if they're advancing an argument by referencing an outside source, I guess that's the big difference. If you're using evidence to say it's true, if you're just saying it's true based on common knowledge, or your understanding of the files, that's acceptable. And then Ms. Slaughter was asking if it's prior knowledge from reading a book or watching the news. Those things are okay, but you have to keep in mind if students are referencing common knowledge, they don't have an expert to prove what they're saying is common knowledge. And so there are some things that we can just accept. Trump is president, we landed on the moon, the earth is flat, maybe not. But those sorts of things, they don't require really evidence in the sense that the more complicated or controversial arguments would, such as the death penalty is immoral. There you start to get into using actual expert evidence. If you have follow-up questions about that, let me know. Otherwise, I'll proceed. I mean, sometimes in my head it makes more sense than I think it does, but definitely feel free to ask more questions if there's still some. So the last major resource that we produce and release, this one isn't so much a resource as it is a reference material. The coach manual and rulebook, we've updated it and it'll be going up on the website with the rest of the materials. It's a clarification of all the expectations for you as a coach. It has links to all of our resources sort of consolidated in one place. It has more detailed sets of rules about our events. So in particular, the evidence question that I was referencing just then, that is explained in detail in the coach rulebook, and that might be a good spot to refer to if you're having ongoing questions about whether or not something constitutes outside evidence or if it's in the core files. There's a few things that are just too complicated to really build into the same manual, and so there will be some resources, most specifically the instructions for how to use Tableroom. Those are going to be placed separately on our website, and that's our link right there if you need a quick reference, dallasdebate.org. All right, so the next thing I'd like to talk about are our events. And I didn't put a picture of our calendar in the PowerPoint, so if you'd like to look at it, just open up dallasdebate.org/calendar. I've uploaded our calendar there. I'd also like to point out that the registration deadlines for our events, I've included those on the calendar. So we have a small change to our event types. We've tried to be more deliberate with the way that our events are sequenced, and we've also added a scrimmage to the calendar in the fall. The point of this is to add more of a progression from students get core files and some basic concepts of the workshop, and then they're thrown into the deep end. So students will start with a workshop, and it's worth noting that the workshop content will be based roughly on where your students should be based on their progress through the student workbook and the coach activity guide. I'll send out some more detailed information about what the workshop content will be just once we get these resources uploaded, but it's going to be very specific, and it's stuff that we think that students will need more instruction on or will need supplemental instruction on that they maybe wouldn't have gotten from your time with them. So they get an introduction to these content and skills, then they go to a scrimmage. This is true of high school and middle school, where they get to practice these ideas. The arguments are still somewhat limited. They're not using advanced arguments like counterplans or critiques. It's pretty straightforward, small, bite-sized debates with full times and no decisions. And then after that, then they get turned loose. Once they've had a chance to sort of debate with the training wheels, that's when tournaments occur, and tournaments will take up the bulk of the spring. We have one tournament in the fall, given the abbreviated schedule. And then at the end of the year, there will be city championships. The city championships, there's going to be a small tweak to. Based on conversations with student activities, we've decided to make the city championships to some degree qualifier based. So as the year goes on, we figure out how many students we have participating. We're going to say every campus gets a set number of teams at the city championships. After that, the remaining slots will be filled by the most competitively successful teams. Our goal is to make the city championships more of a privilege, to make it something to be proud of, to make it something exceptional, rather than just, it's another tournament. We want it to feel like an event. We will continue to do something that we began early last year, where we split comprehensive and magnet awards. All the students will compete together. So if you're at magnet school, your kids will debate comprehensive school kids, vice versa. But we will have separate award categories for magnet and comprehensive schools. The goal there is to ensure that students, no matter their skill level or their sort of background in education, that they have a chance to win awards, to get really interested in debate, to feel like they have an opportunity to succeed, to ensure that they're comfortable sticking around. Any questions so far about the events? Nope.
I don't see any questions yet.
Okay. All right. This is nothing entirely new, but for new coaches, I want to make sure that you hear it. To participate at a DUTA event, you have to do two things. The first is that you have to, sorry, my cat. You have to make sure that you register on tabroom.com. And so that is the most essential part on my end. If you don't tell us how many teams you're going to bring or what students you're going to bring, we don't know that you're coming to an event. We have no idea that you're going to attend. And so we've had cases where people show up on a bus with 20 kids and we didn't know they were coming. That cannot happen. We cannot run a tournament that way. So you must register your teams on tabroom.com. The second part, which this fall obviously is less of an issue because we're not actually traveling, is to make sure to fill out your district paperwork. But I make sure to bring that up because those are two distinct things. You need to make sure to register on Tabroom, fill out district paperwork, and then you're good to go. For those of you that don't know, tabroom.com is our tournament registration and management system. It's how we keep track of who plans to attend. It's how we pair debates day of, and it's what tabulates our results at the end of the day. So it's how we know who actually wins the tournament. As it was last year, to register an event, you have to get your entries to us by the Thursday, the week before the event, which I know is kind of a mouthful, but that's 9 days before the event. So I'm not going to give an example. It just needs to be 9 days before the event. And the last thing I'll say about Tabroom is if you were a new coach, please reach out to me, because that's setting up a Tabroom account is tedious, and we will do it for you, make sure it's set up correctly. So new coaches, shoot me an email. I'll make sure you get set up. I see a question. Do the kids compete at home or from school? I think that's actually the next slide, but good, excellent question, Patricia. Yes, the students will be debating it at home. Akash, my email will be at the end of the presentation, or it's just derek@dallasurban-debate.org. Yes, debate will be online, and effectively the easiest way to think about it is it will be Zoom calls with 4 students and a judge in every single debate. We're planning to use a specific system called Canvas, which is produced by the National Speech and Debate Association. They're the same people that set up Tabroom. We chose it for a few reasons, most importantly because it is automatically set up and linked to Tabroom. If you're setting up a Tabroom account, then you are ready to go with Canvas. We also liked it because only the competitors and a judge can participate in the round, so it ensures that we're sticking to student privacy expectations.
Derek,
Yes.
all tournaments are going to be virtual. Even if you go into a tournament outside of Dallas ISD, we will not be providing transportation to those tournaments. Any tournament you participate in has to be virtual. And for all the new coaches, we are sharing all of your information with Derek, and Derek will be in contact with you and old coaches. So he gets all of the coaches that are designated in Oracle. He will get your email address and information. I think he's also going to have you fill out an information sheet too.
Yeah, I'll take a very brief detour to say that if you're a new coach, you will be hearing from me soon. I typically wait for a week or two after I get that list off Oracle, because there's always a few that trickle in, but you will be getting an email from me soon.
And there's a question, if students have limited access to internet, what happens? Well, we're going to have to work with the systems that we have, and we will do our best to make sure that everybody competes.
Yeah, I will say that, obviously internet access is a difficult issue, but to some degree, DUTA is relying on the district to ensure that students have hotspots if they need them. I can speak on DUTA's end. We are not sufficiently resourced to provide internet to students in the form of hotspots or anything like that. And perhaps Mr. Correa's question about if students will be able to meet on campus, Leo will have to answer that as far as
whatever protocol or whatever system your campus have, that's the system that you will follow. For example, if you're meeting on campus for your classrooms, face-to-face in your classrooms, then you're allowed to have face-to-face meetings with your clubs. You just have to follow the protocols and the procedures that have been set up by the district.
Cool. So we'll be using this system called Campus. One quirk here, and something that we're going to offer training on, is that to use Campus, your students must have a Tabroom account set up. And that does mean that they will have to have an email. They can use a family email, or they can use their district email. I mean, at this point, students should have access to email. I know this, resources are difficult, but it's important if they're going to participate in debate. They must have access to an email. So you'll need to work with them on that. But really, the big takeaway here is that the system that we are using, you're going to have to be prepared to use Tabroom and to expect your students to use Tabroom. Like I said, this is something I cannot possibly broach in the scope of of this meeting. There's too much to cover, but there will be a separate training. There are instructions available online. There are plenty of resources, and we will get you set up accordingly before the year starts, or before the competition season starts. I also want to take a minute to review some of the special and external events that are around the area. There's a lot of debate that goes on in the world, and in addition to DUTA, there's a circuit outside of Dallas Urban Debate called the Texas Forensic Association. They host a lot of events. They're hosting events online, but they have entry fees. So if you're interested in competing there, you'll have to make those arrangements yourself. One of the, I think, best short-term opportunities for your students, if you want to get them engaged, is the International Public Policy Forum essay contest. Pardon me. This is due, or those essays are due October 20th, but several DUTA teams have long competed in this, and I think it's an excellent opportunity for your students, especially given student interest in the essay contest last spring. So that's an essay-based competition with the $10,000 prize. The link to it is there if you're interested. As we did last year and for several years before, we will continue to host what we call the Parish Debates. Roland Parrish is a philanthropist here in Dallas, and he chooses a high school tournament that we will call the Parish Public Debate Qualifier. From there, 4 students will be chosen based on the top speakers to participate in a public debate, which is associated with scholarship prizes. I can't speak to the exact amounts yet because those may change from this past year. We're negotiating that right now, but that will be offered. UIL is one of probably our favorite special events. Every high school has the opportunity to participate in UIL districts, and actually, per your stipend agreements, you're expected to attend UIL districts. So in January, I believe, make sure that you are marking your calendars here to attend. It's an excellent opportunity, and in several of the districts, there aren't that many teams that are actually participating. So you have a great chance to take your students to state, which is in Austin or possibly digitally this year. We'll find out. But UIL is a phenomenal event. The Urban Debate National Championships is hosted by our parent organization, the National Association of Urban Debate Leagues, and it is a high school event that traditionally we send 2 teams to, and it goes to different areas of the country. Right now, we are not exactly certain how qualification is going to work because they're changing the event structure. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but once we get a vision, pardon me, of what the national championships will look like, we'll talk to you. I'll be working with our coach advisory council on that, and we'll come up with a good system for you. Based on feedback from last year, I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm not used to talking this much. We will have the essay contest again in the spring. We'll use next year's topic, whatever it ends up being. We'll use that as a essay prompt, and we'll continue to host that. There was a lot of strong feedback about that. And then the final special event, which may or may not occur depending on COVID, is the Mayor's Cup. And in past years, we've done this several times. The mayor is a keynote speaker at a beautiful venue called the Old Parkland Debate Coliseum. It's actually a coliseum. And we accept nominations typically in the fall or early spring to identify students that will participate. It's a great public debate opportunity, and we'll be trying to host that as well, as long as we're able. So there's really just 2 last things for me. I want to talk about data collection and show you my contact information, and also leave some time for Q&A. So in the past, we've collected most of this data before, but I would just want to put these surveys on your radar and highlight how important they are to us. So the first one that I want to talk about is the coach survey. You'll be getting this once I get the sort of like final string of emails from late designated coaches on Oracle. But we need your updated contact info now more than ever, since we're, it's hard to physically get to you on campus. I can't go to more than 1 campus a day, so it's hard to do site visits. I need a way to reach you and to talk to you. It'll also ask if you want hard copies of the resources that we're offering, so we know how many to order. And it'll also gauge your interest in some of our new or pioneering programs that we're looking at in future years, such as a mentor program. Probably the most important one for us is the National Association of Urban Debate Leagues student survey. This survey we have offered every year, and completion has been intermittent, in large part because we haven't successfully communicated it to you. But it will be in the coach manual. We'll be emailing it to you. It is essential that you have your students fill this out. As you know, we're a nonprofit organization, so we depend on grants from foundations to fund our operations, to create resources. And we can't successfully fill those grants out if we don't know about the students who are participating. We need to know demographic data. We also need parent releases to use their data to look at the makeup of who's participating. And it also gives us a sense of how many students are competing at what school, the depth of their involvement. It helps us track them. So it helps us get an idea of how successful and engaging our programs are. So this survey is very important. There's a high school version and a middle school version. They'll be clearly communicated to you. Please, please, please have your students do this by the end of the year. The last survey, and I know at this point we're asking for too much data, but we would appreciate if you can have your students do this last one. There is an author called Dr. Barbara Mazouk, who studies the impact that debate has on student achievement. And she has chosen Dallas Urban Debate. She reached out to us participate in one of our studies. And so we have a survey that we're asking you give your students before their first tournament and after their last tournament, and it will measure the change in their answers to questions that are self-reported about confidence, academic achievement, that sort of thing. So we'd really appreciate it if you make sure your students do that last one, but most importantly, please do the student data survey. We have to have that. And then I'll leave this up just for a minute so you can see where to get all of our contact. So I'm the executive director of DUTA. I guess I should have made that clearer earlier. You can reach me anytime. I say that begrudgingly, but you can reach me at any time on my cell phone. That's 469-600-9456. I'll send out a correction. That is the incorrect number, 9456. Reach out anytime. If I don't answer the phone, please leave me a voicemail or shoot me a text. Yes.
What was the number?
469
Uh-huh.
600 9456.
9456, great.
I was one button off. So call me anytime, just leave me a voicemail or shoot me a text so I know who's calling. I get a lot of spam calls, and so sometimes I screen my phone calls. It's nothing personal. You can also reach me at Derek at Dallas Urban Debate. What was that, Leo?
A lot of people are asking about the PowerPoint presentations. All of these materials are going to be sent to you. We're going to email you all these materials, and Derek is going to be available. I know there's a lot of new coaches out there, and we have some new schools. He is going to be available for Zoom meetings with your students, Zoom meetings with you. So if you need him to Zoom in and give you some information, he's going to be available, and he'll contact person.
Yeah, I mean, Leo's entirely right, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, I guess, Leo. I mean, I am here, I am available, and especially given the sort of unique structure that we have this year. I mean, Zoom is an unfortunate reality, but it's also an excellent opportunity. It makes it so much easier for me to get into your classrooms and to interact with you and your students. If you have any questions whatsoever, seriously, shoot me an email, give me a call. We're also very lucky as an organization to have a lot of very supportive volunteers, and we have a lot of people who are college debate coaches or former debaters themselves who would love to work with the school, whether in a mentor capacity or just for a meeting or two. So if you ever need help, please reach out. We have a lot of resources to shoot your way. Throughout the year, will be hearing from one of my coworkers. Her name is CC Moore. She's my program coordinator, and given the nature of the sort of brave new world we live in, her role is ever-changing, but she will be in touch with you about tournament logistics, registration, data. That's what you'll most likely be hearing about from her. But if you ever need anything, contact me, and I will direct your concern accordingly. Once again, our website is listed there, dallasdebate.org. That's where all of these resources that I've referenced will be going up. I've already got the calendar up, the coach activity guide, and the coach manual will be up. If not tonight, then tomorrow morning. The core files will be up shortly thereafter. Everything will be posted on the website. We're being much better about updating our website this year. And with that said, I just want to say a few final things, and then this is entirely Q&A after that, or if Leo would like to say anything else. I would just like to give some rough guidance on where we're at during the year, a few suggestions I have for you. Given the late start to the competition season, it's essential that now you start recruiting your students. You have a little more time than usual to engage your students. The first workshop is in mid to late October, I think October 21st for high school, and I believe a week after for middle school. So it's time to start involving students. The great way to do it, I assume most of your campuses have some form of a Remind 101 these days. Work with your principal to shoot out a flyer. If you need help designing one, reach out to me. If you're social media savvy or have students who are interested in helping, one of the things that we heard from other urban debate leagues while we were strategizing for next year is that social media campaigns by campuses are a great way to engage students. As a former teacher, I used to do this where I made debate extra credit or made it an assignment in my classes. That's a great way to engage kids if you're truly desperate. And also just work with your coworkers to identify some. Now is the perfect time to recruit kids, even if you've done nothing else for debate. Now's the time to start, and this is really the most important first step. The other two things I want to say, our events will be going up on Tab Room probably in the next week. And we'll be hosting that training soon as well. That information will go out once we're ready to set up the meeting. So prepare yourself to register according to the deadline, which is, again, the Thursday, the week before the event every time. And then the last thing I really want to plug desperately is please, please, please complete the surveys when we send them out. That data is essential for us to plan and to evaluate our programs. So with that said, I will go ahead and end my screen share, and I'll leave it for the Q&A, or if y'all have any particular questions.
We'll head back to Charlotte because we have no questions over here.
No questions? All right. Just want to reiterate that your contact person for anything Dallas ISD related is Leonidas. So your stipend, any concerns you have, registration fees or transportation, any of those specific to the district, talk to Leonidas about those. Anything related to DUTA or programming with curriculum or any of that, Derek is your contact person for that. And with that, I think we'll wrap up for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to a great year of debate.